Turn on a television at 7 p.m. Open a news app at 7:01. And within 30 seconds, you'll likely see war footage, stock market drop of 2.3%, or wildfires burning 10,000 acres in California. The headlines rarely read, 3.5 billion people went to work safely today, or global life expectancy rose to 100. Instead, we get plane crashes, political scandals, hurricanes measured in Category 5 wind speeds of 157 miles per hour. It feels like all news is bad news because the system is built to notice disruption, not stability. When 99.9% of all commercial flights land safely each day, that stability doesn't qualify as news. When one aircraft skids off a runway in Toronto or Tokyo, it does. The news isn't a mirror of everyday life. It's a spotlight on what disrupts it. Most people assume the world itself is getting worse. Crime, corruption, disease, collapse. It feels like a steady downward slide. Yet, global extreme poverty fell from roughly 36% in 1990 to under 10% by 2019, according to World Bank data. Childhood mortality has dropped dramatically since 1960, as vaccination campaigns now reach billions. The confusion comes from exposure. In 1985, you read a morning newspaper and watch a 30-minute broadcast every evening. Today, a smartphone delivers breaking alerts 24 hours a day from every continent. Earthquakes in Indonesia, wildfires somewhere else, mass floods here. We're not seeing more bad news events, we're seeing more events, period. There's a neurological reason. Negative stories dominate. The human brain is wired with what psychologists call a negative bias. In lab studies, participants react more strongly to images of snakes, angry faces, or car crashes than neutral or positive images. Something in the brain lights up faster when something signals a threat. For early humans on the African savannah 50,000 years ago, missing one lion in tall grass could mean death. So the brain evolved to prioritise danger, urgency, and conflict. News organisations operate inside that biological reality. When editors compare two headlines, local school improved test scores by 3% versus chemical spill forces 2,000 evacuations, one will pull more clicks, more viewers, and more advertising revenue. Attention converts to money. Negative signals grab attention faster. The algorithm learns this in milliseconds, and so does the newsroom. The dynamic intensified around the year 2000. News channels expanded to 24-hour cycles, and websites began tracking clicks in real time. Editors could suddenly see, down to the minute, which headline generated 18,000 visits and which one stalled at 900. Then, social media arrived. Platforms like Twitter in 2006 and Facebook's newsfeed updates rewarded posts that trigger emotion. Studies found that false or sensational stories spread faster than factual, calm ones. Emotional language, especially outrage, travels faster. This created a feedback loop. The more extreme the headline, the more engagement it generated. The more engagement, the more visibility it received. Within a decade, the economic incentive shifted from inform to provoke. Bad news doesn't just report reality anymore. It competes in a marketplace of attention measured in seconds. But here's the nuance. The news isn't deliberately evil, and it isn't entirely wrong. Wars in Ukraine or Gaza are real. Hurricanes that cause $100 billion in damages are real. Financial crashes that wipe out 30% of retirement portfolios are real. The distortion comes from proportion. If 8 billion people wake up on a Tuesday and 99% of them experience routine, peaceful days, that normalcy doesn't register. The less than 1% who face disaster define the global narrative. There's also a professional standard at work. Journalism traditionally defines news as something unusual, unexpected, or impactful. A bridge collapsing in London qualifies because bridges are not supposed to collapse. A bridge standing safely for 50 years doesn't. So the system highlights expectations, and over time, expectations feel like the rule. Constant exposure to negative headlines affects measurable behaviour. Surveys by the American Psychological Association show increased stress levels tied to news consumption during crisis. People report sleeping fewer hours, checking phones dozens of times a day, and feeling a generalised sense of threat. Perception shifts faster than statistics. In many surveys, citizens believe crime is rising, even when local data shows a decline. If you see 3 violent incidents from 3 different cities in one afternoon, your brain doesn't label them geographically separate. It labels them as a pattern. This can influence elections, public policy, and personal decision. Investors pull money from markets after watching red ticketers drop 600 points in a single session. Parents restrict outdoor play because of rare abduction stories. Fear changes behaviour even when risk remains statistically low. The emotional cost compounds quietly. So, why is all news bad news? Because news is built to track deviation, and deviation usually involves damage, conflict, or failure. It's monitoring a system for threats in a world of 8 billion variables. But the absence of headlines is its own kind of data. When no alert buzzes at 2 a.m, it means the power grid is working, hospitals are functioning, aeroplanes are landing, and supply chains are delivering food to supermarkets across thousands of cities. The news shows you the cracks in the system. It doesn't show you the structure holding. To understand reality, you need both the spotlight and the background. Bad news dominates because it signals what demands attention. The quiet stability of billions of people's days simply does not compete.